if you want to attract people to your world, you have to make noise. I hope that is a given, but the reality is if you're not sharing with the world the happiness you find or the goals that you're attaining in your profession, if you're not being willing to share with other people some of the successes you have and occasionally even some of the failures you have and experience, then there's no reason for them to ever come to you in attempt to connect with you. If you're not telling the world the good things that are happening, no one's going to give a crap and no one's going to care to connect with you. So I think first things first is we have to recognize that if we are succeeding in real estate, the greatest currency we can trade is not sharing our finances with others. It's not spammy sales pitches. The greatest currency we can trade in agent attraction is FOMO. I think that's something that really needs to become the foundation of everything we do in agent attraction, is making sure that we understand that our world is pretty awesome. My FOMO broker, the person that helps me establish FOMO in the lives of other agents, is Leilani. So you may be a really good FOMO broker yourself, meaning you may tell your story really, really well. I don't. What's funny is a friend of ours, Jimmy Mackin, evaluated Taylor and I's video styling, and he tried to be as nice to me as possible and said, Joe, you're very direct and you speak very matter of fact. Taylor is very easy to connect with. Like when I watch Taylor's videos, I just like him. It's like, what the crap? Like, you don't like me? But the reality is I don't tell my story very well. I'm very, by nature, I'm just a very, I'll say forceful, but in reality, I'm probably just a very pushy person. So it's hard for people to connect with me on a FOMO level because they probably just think I'm a jerk. So Leilani helps to soften me, and she helps to tell stories about our company and our team in a way that hopefully creates FOMO in the lives of others, to where they look at it and say, man, those guys are doing something I want to be a part of. So let me give you some tips and tricks around the creation of FOMO. So often we find ourselves in rooms and participating in activities. This very moment is an example of it, where we have from all across the country. I know we've got Eric in Cocoa Beach, we've got Chuck Hill in Tennessee, we've got Sean Everett coming from the thriving metropolis of Lincoln County, Nevada. So we've got people from all over Canada, wherever, and we're participating in this collaborative attempt to share knowledge and experience with each other in a way that we can all learn and grow together. Most agents don't ever have this opportunity. So the more, it's such a cheesy catchphrase in sales, but the more you tell about the environment you're in, the more other people are going to want to be a part of it. So if you're participating in masterminds and chats, live events, and you're not sharing with others what you're doing and what you're learning and what you're seeing and who you're connecting with, then you are missing an opportunity. So Sean, if you could unmute yourself really quick, talk about your experience coming down with us to Mexico and how you've attempted to leverage that, because I know you're really working hard on rebuilding a team, agent attraction. So what, if any, were the takeaways you from Mexico, or what has been the effect it's had on your business since being there?
Yeah, so mine is opportunity, really, and ease, I guess you could say, because I ran a team for a long time. I had a big team, and it just annoyed the shit out of me. I was like, I'm out, man. I got to take a break. And after Mexico, I was like, man, it doesn't have to be as hard as it. I'm looking at all these people and what they do, and I'm like, man, I like you said, you got Leilani to help you with stuff. Like my biggest thing really was the who's of running a team, the who's of helping my marketing company, the who's of, agent attraction. It's like, I don't have to be good at everything. And I always thought that I did.
Right.
Thought I needed to know everything. I like to know everything. That's a horrible mindset, right? And so I learned that there. I said, I gotta figure out who to put in place. And then my wife was there, and when she gets that fuse lit, man, on something, it's game over, because she doesn't ever stop, and then I don't get any sleep either, because it's just ideas all night long. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we just really figured out, we've been reading books and doing all kinds of stuff like this, of learning the who's and how to get where we want to get to without us having to do everything. So that was a complete game changer of everything for me on every level. And then also just knowing my place in the business and her place in the business, and to not overstep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we came home from Mexico, and you immediately connected with a real estate broker and who has a pretty large team. And I know that we've been talking to them about ways we can collaborate together. So was it being in that environment that gave you the courage, or the not, I know courage is, but like the desire to connect on that level? Was it coming home from Mexico and saying like, man, I can do this? Or what?
Yeah. So, and honestly, it wasn't even just like Mexico in general, even though it was like awesome and I could just go live there right now. But it was all the people. It was everybody I met, all the people in this company. I mean, everybody's just so genuine, and everybody's so sharing, and all of that. And so it really did. It was like, all right, I got a lot of influence with a lot of people on different levels when it comes to marketing stuff. And it's like, I just started talking to people, just like you said, letting them know my experience, how it was, what I enjoyed, and really just the people, because I haven't felt an atmosphere like I have with the people at Real, and like all over the country.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just been sharing with them, what I like and what I'm doing, but the ability to push a team out more than just where you're stuck at, in your city. You can go across the nation. There's just so many options available. And so some of these guys have ridiculous amount of influence all across the country. And so I was letting them know how they can leverage that, and it got them really excited.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
So I think the key is to understand the acronym FOMO, is to realize that we are attempting to build a collaborative environment that every single agent could actually, that would improve their world if they knew about it. The problem is the creation or the trading of FOMO as a currency relies upon our willingness to do the second acronym I'm going to talk about. So the first one is FOMO. You have to realize that is your asset in agent attraction. Now, this isn't just about attracting to a company. Like with our team, the Joe Taylor Group, we have to make sure agents understand that not being a part, what they're missing out on in our team is warm leads. Ryan Thurgood, that's on this chat with us right now, is our warm lead generator. They get full transaction management. They get full broker support. They get full coaching and mentorship. They get full access to our office. Like in Vegas, if we are not growing the Joe Taylor Group, it is purely because we are not doing a good job articulating to other people the awesomeness that exists on our team. So if your team or your environment is not awesome, my admonition to you is create something awesome. Like, it is impossible to create FOMO, or it is impossible to attract people to something that sucks. Even if you can pull the wool over somebody's eyes, they will leave really, really quick if what you attracted with is not something that is reality. We've all had conversations with agents that went to other companies because they were promised this and that. And when those promises go unfulfilled, they bail. So FOMO cannot be faked. You cannot create in someone else the fear of missing out with something that is not actually happening. So if you're like me, your problem is telling, meaning our world is actually awesome and I just don't do a great job of telling the story. But you may have the opposite problem, which is I'm a great storyteller, but my world actually sucks. So either way, You've got to improve on either your storytelling or creation of a better world to attract people into. All right, here is acronym number 2, and then I want to spend some time getting to some questions. Acronym number 2 is OYM. Open your mouth. Like, if you're not willing to have a conversation with someone, Taylor and I and Brendan King went up yesterday with Jackie Sierra. We went up to St. George, Utah. Sue Gatchell's on this call. She was there. And I don't know, Sue, if you caught it, if you could unmute yourself, but Blair and Blake Fry, amazing real estate commissioners. They kill it. They do so much business. And I think it was Blair who said, there's this agent up in Salt Lake that he runs a company, and I've wanted to connect with him, and I've stayed up at night trying to think of ways to connect with them. So Sue, what was some of your takeaways listening to Blair kind of shake his fist at the sky over that thing?
Just give me his phone number and I'll call him.
And she'll call him.
I'll run up tomorrow and have lunch with him.
Yeah.
Surprising, because those guys are awesome. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, and I'm sure that person would completely be responsive to them reaching out.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that they're smaller. They haven't grown. You know, they're just trying to get the groove on.
So Sue, talk about some of your mouth opening activities. Like, you run a team, but you've also attracted agents into your world. Like, how do you get up the courage? How do you get up the, like, making a call to somebody you know and who knows you? We talked about yesterday about the importance of having trust and competency. And so when you trade that trust and competency for a, not necessarily an ask, but at least a conversation beyond just how are you, like, where do you get your courage or your knowledge from to have those conversations with people that you've known for a while?
Well, I think for me, that's probably not the hardest part. I think that I can open up the conversation, open up the dialogue when it presents itself right in front of me. It's getting the people in front of me, or the reach out to figure out who I should be talking to. That's hard. Like, I think I just put in the chat box, you know, do you run ads? Do you email blast? Do you know, if someone kind of lands in front of me, they'll usually join my team. Sometimes I have resistance, like, do I really want to have them on my team? I know that sounds really bad, but which is a real bonus to with Real, because if it's not a good fit, they can still be a part of you as far as your network is concerned. Yeah. So I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of the things that what you're talking about is knowing clear in your mind about what you have to offer. I mean, that's a huge thing. You've got to know, like, the transaction management, what you're offering all of these agents that you're bringing on.
So I think, to Sue's point, we have to understand, when we reach out and connect with somebody, we have to understand how we could improve their life. Because if at its core, we don't believe somebody's world would be better by collaborating with our world, then we have nothing to talk to them about. When we at our core believe, hey, being on our team, being in our world, being a collaboration partner, whatever that is, by connecting with me, I think my world will be better and your world will be better if you and I are somehow connected. That becomes a very easy conversation. So if I was talking to an independent brokerage owner, I would have a very specific conversation about a transition we made that blessed our lives and why I think it blessed them. If I was talking to somebody looking to build and expand a team, we built the Team Leader Academy. We're almost done. We're like 2/3 of the way through building an academy specifically for team leaders looking to grow, maintain, or expand a team. So I feel like I would have a conversation around that. If I'm talking to an independent agent who's struggling to achieve their production goals, who wants to stay independent, I believe collaborating and bringing them into this kind of world of what we're doing here would be very beneficial. And then if I'm talking to an agent who really needs a team environment and lead generation and support and transaction management and all those things, then I have something to talk about there. So it's almost like you could throw me into any conversation and I'm very comfortable in saying, like, I think there's a way that we can work together and collectively we can achieve something greater. Like yesterday, Sue, we shared this thought, and I've been kind of obsessed with the quote by JFK, which is ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think for me, that's at the heart of agent attraction, is not how can I bring people into my world that are going to do something for me, but rather how can I bring people into my world that I can actually help them succeed at a greater level. As a brokerage owner, as a team leader, as a high-powered individual, or as a team member, if I believe I can bring value into someone's world, then it becomes a very genuine conversation. Now, I'll tell you, there are a few little, we've got about 10 minutes left, a few little tips and tricks that I use. I shared this one with Sue and the guys up in Utah yesterday. Most of my conversations start with a very disarming phrase on purpose, which is, hey, Sean, this may not be for you, but I know that you know a lot of people. And so if you know anyone that this would help, would you do me a solid and make a connection for me? It's like right off the bat, like whether it's joining a team, whether it's a collaboration partner, whether it's a brokerage that I'm talking to, it's always like, hey, this probably might not fit your world, but can I share with you what I'm looking for? And if you know anybody that would fit, please send them my way. Is a very disarming conversation. Because again, generally when I have this conversation, it's with somebody who trusts me and believes that I am competent. I can immediately destroy my trust from them and my competence in their eyes if I try to hard sell somebody that I barely have a relationship with on something that I barely understand. So, like, if I don't understand what I'm talking about and we don't have that great of a relationship and I come in super hard, chances are I'm going to destroy my trust and credibility. So most successful conversations I have around agent attraction are either with somebody who's followed us here locally long enough that they just want to be a part of the Joe Taylor group because we make so much noise and our agents are sharing so much goodness and happiness that they generally just say, like, I just want to be a part of what you're doing. Or it's somebody who I've had a long existing relationship with, that when I call them and I say, hey, Sean, so Taylor called Sean. We've known Sean forever. We knew Sean when he was a 16-year-old kid running a car wash company. And Taylor reached out to Sean and said, hey, man, I want to chat with you about what's going on here. And so Sean knew that Taylor was competent and he knew he could trust him. And so that has to be the foundation of all of our conversations. All right. Angie says, what do you think about hosting a monthly happy hour for agents that follow us on Instagram as a way to attract? I think it's great. One thing that we stay very far away from is lunch and learns. We never offer a free meal and bait and switch people into our world. Sue and I talked about this yesterday. We did an event yesterday with maybe 150 people there, and there was no sales pitch. We weren't selling anything. Like, it was just, we were just trying to bring value into people's world. So, Ange, I think if your goal is bring people in, offer them amazing content and value into their lives, and see if relationships are created from that, I think that that's awesome. What I would very much or encourage people to stay away from is, let me get people into my office or into a room on the pretense I'm going to provide value in their life, and then I'm actually just going to pitch them on my team or my brokerage or whatever that is. So knowing Angie, she is actually a value like a value bringer. She actually does enrich the lives of the people she knows. So if she were to do that, I know that she would bring great value. So for someone like Angie, I think it's a great idea. The problem is you're walking a thin line between like bringing people into your world and providing value and bringing people into your world and being spammy. And so I think the key is, what is your desired outcome? If your desired outcome is, I want to bring these 10 people in and I just want to connect with them and see how we can collaborate together, I think that it will be a success. If the only definition of success is I'm going to bring 10 people into my world, and if 5 don't join my team, join my brokerage, or become a collaboration partner, it's a failure. I think that's where the danger zone would be. All right, Ryan, what suggestions do you have for someone that doesn't have years of experience recruiting? That's actually a great question. The number one success I've had in creating collaboration partners has been in audiences, not stages. So think about that. Like, I've spoke on a lot of stages. I don't really have a ton of relationships that have come because I've been on a stage and someone was in an audience. The deepest relationships I've actually developed from like live events was because I was sitting next to a person, or I went and grabbed a Diet Coke and the other guy was grabbing a Diet Coke, and we just started talking about our world. In Mexico, one of the greatest conversations I had was waiting in line for elote corn. It was like they had their lanyard on, I had my lanyard on, and it was like, Sean, you might have been there. I was like, hey, and it was just a good conversation around like, what market are you guys in? Oh, cool. What company you're with? Oh, here's what I'm doing. How does your team run? And it was just like we built a relationship around elote corn that didn't have anything to do with me being on the stage, just had something to do with me eating corn and them eating corn and us connecting. So if you have not had years of recruiting experience or attracting experience, the number one thing you could do is be in the audience where big things are talked about. So Sue brought up, there's an event here in Vegas. I think it's great. I think she should go, and I think she should connect with individuals. Some people will bring things into her world that are going to improve her life. She's going to bring things into other people's world that's going to improve their life. But the most important thing is not what even happens up on stage. If every event you go to, you realize like it's not about the stage, it's about the audience. Like, I just need to connect with these people, because so much of entrepreneurship and blowhard and like all those things happen at these live events, that it's not even about who's speaking, it's about who's listening. And if you can connect with the other people listening, I think that would be a great start. The other thing is, going back to point number one, if you're not leveraging what your world is, then you're really missing out on establishing connections. So I think social media is something that you should be using, and something you should be very adamant about not being used by. So if you see an agent that you admire, I would connect with them on social. And I would say, hey, let's go grab lunch. Like, not to pitch them on anything, but just to say, you look like you're doing rad stuff. I'm trying to do rad stuff. There's so much power and vulnerability of just saying like, hey, I want to learn from you and I want to share with you. And like, let's just, if I'm secure enough in my world that I'm not going to, believe that connecting with someone is going to blow my world up and make my life terrible. If I'm secure enough, then I have nothing to lose by saying like, let's go to Cafe Rio. I'll get a salad, you'll get a salad, and we'll just share what rad stuff each other are doing. I think that's a great way to start. So connect with an audience, and to some degree, building an audience is where I would start, Ryan. So as far as running ads, Sue, we do from time to time do things to run to generate interest in our team. That's about where it ends. So we never run ads for agent attraction to a brokerage. Like, for us, it's always been about our team. So we'll tell our story about the Joe Taylor group. We're happy to post on Instagram like, hey, we're looking for agents to join our team. One of the mistakes I made early on when we transitioned over to Reel is I thought that I could tell the story of Reel and people would be attracted to it. The reality is people are very much attracted to people. They're attracted to culture and collaboration. And so while I'm at a Reel event, I may post a picture of myself that individuals will be like, hey, what are you doing? I'd like to be a part of it. But I'm not going to run an ad that says, did you know 3 ways you can acquire stock with Reel is blah, blah, blah. Like, that just would never be something I would do. But would I post an ad on Instagram or Facebook as far as joining the Joe Taylor group? I would. All right, Eric, so one-to-one conversations open the door for a better relationship, 100%. Yep. That's, and I think one-to-one conversations that are collaborative in nature, one-to-one conversations that are a little bit vulnerable, one-to-one conversations that you actually have a desire to learn from somebody. Like I've got a pretty decent sized radar. Like when I meet somebody, I'm like, all right, this person's crazy, right? And so like, if I come across pity or crazy to people, then it's really hard to connect. What I really try to do is find something I actually admire about someone I'm trying to connect to or with, and then I'm confident and comfortable enough to share with them, like, dude, I love what you're doing with X, Y, and Z. And it comes from a place of authenticity. I very rarely run into somebody that there's something I admire about. So if you're trying to connect with somebody and you haven't yet discovered what their superpower is that you admire, you've just got to dig a little bit deeper, because as much as we love how to friends and influence people, or in other words, how to manipulate people into liking you, the reality is I'm probably more of a 7 habits person, because I think there is something about, like, if I memorize Sue's name and I keep saying Sue and I keep talking about how awesome Sue is, I can, those are emotional bank account drops, right? But they fall on deaf ears if the next time I see her, I don't remember her. And so it's like, I have to have those human connections. All right, JP says, so how do you open up the conversation of real? That's always been the challenge. And fear of change with agents has also been a big challenge. They know it's a good fit, but they're scared of the unknown. I think, so JP, whenever I speak on a stage, it's always an uncomfortable and awkward conversation, because I start out by talking about some super uncomfortable things in my world, but it establishes a principle of honesty with them. And so, to be honest, if I'm in a conversation with someone about collaboration or growth or building something together, it's impossible for me to not talk about real, because I believe in it so much, and it's been such a blessing to my life. Story. So I called a friend of mine that was in an area of North America that was about to open up. I knew that Real was about to launch there, and I knew that they were a powerhouse in that marketplace. So the conversation went like this, and hopefully this helps JP. Hey, I need to pick your brain for a second. My company is going to be opening up in your area, and it's probably not for you, so don't think I'm trying to pitch you, but do you know anybody that would be interested in having a conversation with me around collaboration and growth, yada, yada, yada? This person said to me after 30 seconds, like, Joe, let me just stop you right there, because I'll tell you, it's not me. The last year's been crazy. I'm not in a position to make a move. And I was like, whoa, like, nobody's talking about you moving. I'm just saying, like, do you know anybody? We kind of laughed for a second. So she said, well, tell me about Real. Tell me how it's been for you. And it took about 4 to 5 minutes of me sharing with her the growth that we've experienced and what our world has become, for her to say, well, what would it look like if I wanted to make that transition? And so it was like, it was such a quick transition mentally for her. But I think it started with, like, I'm obsessed with collaboration. Anybody that's known me or listened to me speak recently is just like, JP, you're up in Wyoming or Idaho? Wyoming. So how can I help you in Wyoming? How can you help me down in Vegas? Like, what can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? How can we trade knowledge and experience together? So it's impossible for me to have a conversation that doesn't talk about Real, because for me, that is the world I'm excited about. One of my frustrations is that, to your point, people are afraid of the unknown. The easiest thing for people to do is just stay where they are and not move. Like Sue watched Red Rock go through this with all of their agents, and the guys at Red Rock believed they were doing the best thing. And it's taken them now, they're still 6 or 7 months in, trying to convince some of their people, like, no, this is actually awesome. And so I think one thing I realize is not, my world is not for everybody. What I really want and am obsessed with is, how can I find the people that want to be in my world? Like, how can I find the people that trust me and know that I'm competent and want to be connected collaboration wise with me? And so I try to make it a very non-threatening, non-invasive, non-spammy, because I got spammed by another company with a similar business model for like 6 years in a row. And it was such a major turnoff. And so I try, not to say I've never been spammy, but I try to come from a position of collaboration and growth and like, hey, this may not be for you. Do you have anybody you can refer my way? I always look for principles in my business. Like, we're trying to figure out mortgage and stuff. So I know people that have done the mortgage space. And I'm like, hey, how would you approach it if you were? We've got agents, across North America that we work with. And so I'm always, if anything, if I could close with anything, great question, JP, I'm always looking to learn from people. And I hope that comes across authentic enough that it's disarming to the point to where they may be willing to learn from me. Because if it's just, hey, you need to check this out. Hey, this would be great for you. Hey, you're crazy if you don't do this. Or, hey, I'm making so much money from this or that. I think people get kind of pissed at that. Where if I reach out to somebody authentically and I'm like, hey, I need a collaboration partner up in Seattle. Like, I don't know if you know anybody up there, but like, I love Seattle and I've got friends up there and it's the home of Zillow and yada, yada, yada. Do you know anybody that I could, well, what does collaboration with you look like? Well, JP's up in Wyoming and I'm here in Vegas and we're shooting ideas back and forth and we're collaborating. And so we need somebody up there and we do live events together and mastermind together. And they may go like, yeah, it's not for me, but you know who probably would be into that is so-and-so. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, listen, if you ever need a guy down in Vegas, let me be your guy. Until I get somebody up in Seattle, you're my guy up in Seattle. Like, let's run and grow from there. And so it's always, I just try to come from that position of like, how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we grow together? And then some people are like, hey, it's not for me. And then my number one thing is I'm always like, cool, well, do me this one favor. Since it's not for you, if you find anybody else that it is for, please, please, please send them my way. And the next round of golf or steak dinner or whatever is on me, and it just kind of establishes that the next time somebody's like, hey, have you looked at Real? They're going to go, oh my gosh, JP from Wyoming called me. Dude, you need to talk to him. That guy knows what's going on. And so it's just that planting of seeds. Sean, last but not least, Sean was going to come to work with us 4 months ago, punted, decided a month or two ago to come back. He's with us. He's grown with us. And so it's that seed was planted. He saw us continue to execute. Early on in our time, I think he was kind of like, let me see if these guys can figure this out. And then he saw us execute at a level that he finally came back and said like, all right, guys, I'm going to roll with you. And we're grateful to have him. So guys, listen, thank you so much. Hopefully I provided some value. Have a great day.